There comes a time in life when something inside starts to whisper louder than ever before. It usually begins as a quiet discomfort. A small voice that questions the choices you've made and the life you've built around you. At first it feels like doubt. Then it grows. And suddenly you realize that for years you've been living according to what others expected of you. Saying yes when you wanted to say no. Smiling when you felt like crying. Holding back your opinions just to keep the peace. Louise Hay often reminded us that every thought we think is creating our future. And yet, how many times have you shaped your days around what others wanted? How many times have you silenced your true feelings just to avoid conflict? It's not your fault. Of us were raised to believe that being good means pleasing everyone. That being loved means being available, agreeable, and never causing trouble. But there's a cost to this way of living. Slowly, you start to feel disconnected from yourself. Your energy drops, your mood shifts. You wake up feeling heavy, like you're carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations on your shoulders. There's a longing deep inside, but you can't quite name it. It feels like something is missing, even when everything seems fine on the outside. Louise taught that self-love starts with awareness. Recognizing when we've abandoned ourselves is the first step to reclaiming our power. When you notice that you're constantly putting yourself last, it's a sign that something needs to change. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you'll stop caring about others. It means you'll start caring about yourself with the same dedication you've given. To everyone else, think about the times you've canceled your own plans just to make someone else happy. Or when you've agreed to something that didn't feel right because you were afraid of disappointing others. Those moments seem small, but over time, they build into a life that doesn't reflect your true self. Imagine waking up one morning and feeling excited about your day. Feeling at peace with your choices. Knowing that you're living a life that reflects who you truly are. It sounds simple, but for many people, it feels like an impossible dream. That's why this conversation is so important. This is about giving yourself permission to take the first step towards change. Louise believed in the power of affirmations. Imagine starting your day by saying, "I am worthy of love. I deserve to live my truth. My needs matter." Small affirmations like these can plant seeds for deep transformation. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're just going through the motions, living a life that doesn't really feel like yours? If this resonates with you, I'd love to know your thoughts. Feel free to share in the comments what choosing yourself would mean for you today. Your story might inspire someone else. Who's watching this right now? Louise believed that every positive change starts with a single conscious decision. And that's what we're talking about here. Not a dramatic overnight transformation, but a gentle, loving shift in the way you treat yourself. A new beginning where your happiness, your well-being, and your truth finally become priorities. So take a deep breath. This is the start of something important. The choice to honor yourself begins now. And as we continue, I'll show you how this decision will create ripple effects in every area of your life. Now that you've allowed yourself to reflect on the idea of choosing yourself, let's go deeper. There's a moment in this journey when the truth becomes impossible to ignore. It often comes during a quiet afternoon or a restless night. Out of nowhere, a wave of realization hits you. You've spent years putting everyone else's needs before your own. Family, friends, coworkers, even strangers. Their happiness always seemed more important than your own. Louise Hay spoke often about how many of us carry old patterns from childhood. We learn early on that love must be earned, that our worth depends on how much we do for others. Slowly, this belief shapes the way we see ourselves. We start thinking that saying yes to everyone is the only way to feel valued. But as time passes, this mindset creates emotional exhaustion. You feel drained without knowing exactly why. You start to lose connection with your passions. You forget what makes you smile. Even simple ... Louise often encouraged people to stop and ask themselves, What do I really want? This question can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent most of your life avoiding it. But the discomfort is a signal. It's your inner self asking for attention. A gentle nudge reminding you that your needs matter too. Imagine standing in front of a mirror and looking deeply into your own eyes. What would happen if, just for a moment, you said to yourself, "I choose me"? It may sound simple, but this small declaration holds incredible power. Louise believed that healing starts with self-acceptance. It's about recognizing where you are without judgment and deciding that you deserve something better. The truth is, change doesn't require a dramatic event. It often begins with tiny shifts. Saying no when something doesn't feel right. Taking time for yourself without guilt. Speaking kindly to yourself when negative thoughts arise. These small actions, repeated consistently, start to rebuild your sense of self-worth. There's also something else Louise often reminded us. Every thought we think and every word we speak is creating our future. When you change the way you speak to yourself, everything else starts to change too. Your relationships improve, your health feels better. Even your energy levels begin to rise. Let's pause for a moment and think about this. When was the last time you did something just because it made you happy? Not because it was expected, not because it made someone else feel better, but simply because it brought you joy. This is not selfish. This is necessary as we continue. I'll help you explore what happens when you start making choices based on love for yourself. Because choosing yourself is not about pushing others away. It's about bringing yourself back home. Back to your truth, back to the person you were always meant to be. Now that you're beginning to understand the importance of choosing yourself, it's time to talk about the emotional weight that comes with this decision. At first, making changes may feel empowering. You say no to something that doesn't align with you, and for a brief moment, there's a sense of relief. But soon after, the discomfort begins. Doubt creeps in. Guilt follows closely behind. This is a natural part of the process. Louise Hay often spoke about how our old thought patterns will resist any kind of change. Your mind may start whispering. Thoughts like, what if they get upset? Or am I being selfish? These are not your truth. These are learned responses. It's built over years of putting others first. You might notice that some people around you will react strongly to your new boundaries. They were used to you always saying yes, always adjusting, always making yourself small to keep the peace. Now that you've started choosing yourself, their comfort zone is shaken. This reaction is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. In fact, it's a sign that you're growing. Louise reminded us that when we change, others have two options. They can grow with us or stay where they are. Either way, it's not your responsibility to manage their emotions. Let's imagine a simple example. Picture yourself receiving an invitation to an event you don't want to attend. In the past, you would have gone without question, just to avoid disappointing someone. But now, you pause. You check in with yourself. You realize you'd rather spend that time resting or doing something that nourishes your soul. When you decline with kindness and honesty, you're practicing self-love in action. The first time might feel uncomfortable. The second time, a little easier. Over time, it becomes natural. Louise also taught that every time we honor ourselves, we send a clear message to the universe. We're saying, I matter. My feelings matter. My needs are important. And when you start doing this, something powerful happens. Life begins to respond in new ways. You might start attracting people who respect your boundaries. Opportunities that align with your values may appear. You begin to feel lighter, more peaceful, more connected to yourself. However, it's important to remember that fear will show up from time to time. That inner voice may tell you to go back to your old patterns. This is where compassion becomes essential. Speak to yourself the way Louise would encourage. Use gentle, loving affirmations like, it's safe for me to honor my needs, or I am learning to choose myself every day. You are not alone in this process. Every person who has walked the path of healing has faced these same emotional waves. The key is to move through them with love and patience. As we continue, I'll show you how this journey of self-choice can completely transform the way you experience relationships, work, and even your health. Now that you've taken the first steps toward choosing yourself, let's talk about one of the biggest shifts you're about to experience, something Louise Hay spoke about often. The moment you start living authentically, the world around you begins to change. Change isn't always comfortable at first. You might notice that certain friendships start to feel distant. Conversations that once seemed easy may now feel forced. Some people might question you. They may say things like, "You're different," or "Why are you acting this way?" And deep inside, part of you might wonder if you're making a mistake. This is completely normal. When you choose yourself, you're breaking old patterns. For years, you've shown up in ways that made others comfortable, even when it left you feeling drained. Now, by setting boundaries and speaking your truth, you're shifting the entire dynamic. Louise often reminded us that the people who truly love and respect us will adjust. They will learn to honor the new version of us, the version that no longer hides her feelings or sacrifices her own well-being just to avoid conflict. Let's imagine the simple situation. Think about a friend who always expected you to be available, no matter what you had going on. Maybe in the past, you'd cancel your plans, skip your rest, or say yes out of obligation. Now you've started saying no when necessary. At first, that friend may pull away, but with time, two things will happen. Either the relationship will grow healthier, with mutual respect, or it will naturally fade to make space for new connections. This is not about loss. It's about alignment. When you live in your truth, the right people stay. The right opportunities appear. And most importantly, you feel peace in your heart. Now, I'd like to pause for a moment and ask you something. Kate, can you think of one relationship or a situation in your life where you felt the need to shrink yourself just to keep others happy? If you feel comfortable, share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone else who's going through the same thing. Sometimes, knowing we're not alone can make all the difference. Louise believed that healing is not just about changing our thoughts, but also about changing how we show up in the world. As you continue on this path, you'll notice your inner dialogue shifting too. You'll start to hear yourself saying things like, "I am allowed to prioritize my well-being," or "It's safe for me to choose what feels right for me." With each small decision, your confidence will grow. You'll start recognizing your own worth, not because someone else tells you, but because you feel it fro. In the next part of our journey, I'll help you understand how this new mindset will begin to attract better opportunities, deeper connections, and even improve your physical health. As you continue embracing this new way of living, something beautiful starts to happen. The energy around you shifts. Opportunities that once seemed out of reach begin to appear. People who align with your values start entering your life. Even situations that used to feel heavy and complicated seem to resolve with less effort. Louise Hay often spoke about the power of thoughts and beliefs in shaping our reality. She reminded us that when we change what we believe about ourselves, the world reflects that change back to us. It's like adjusting the frequency of a radio. When you start thinking differently, you attract different experiences. Imagine waking up in the morning and starting your day with the thought, "I am worthy of good things." This single affirmation can open doors you never expected. Not because magic happens overnight, but because your new belief system helps. You see possibilities where before you only saw limitations. Let's think about a simple example. Maybe in the past you stayed in a job that made you unhappy because you believed it was the best you could get. But now, with your growing self-worth, you begin to consider new opportunities. You start applying for positions that truly excite you. You speak with more confidence during interviews. Before long, you find yourself in a role that feels fulfilling. The same thing happens in relationships. When you value yourself, you naturally attract people who treat you with respect and kindness. Louise often said that life mirrors back the love we give to ourselves. If you treat yourself with care and compassion, others will respond in the same way. But it's not just about external changes. Internally, you'll notice a new sense of peace. Moments that used to trigger anxiety or self-doubt will start to feel different. Instead of reacting with fear, you'll pause, breathe, and choose thoughts that support you. Louise encouraged us to become aware of our inner dialogue. Pay attention to the words you say to yourself. Are they loving, supportive, kind? If not, this is your chance to gently shift them. A woman once shared how she started her mornings with one simple practice. Before getting out of bed, she placed her hand over her heart and said, "Today, I choose myself." She noticed that her days felt lighter. Her interactions became more positive. Even her sleep improved. You don't have to make huge changes all at once. Small, daily actions build momentum. Choosing yourself can mean taking a 5-minute break when you feel overwhelmed. It can mean allowing yourself to rest without guilt, or speaking up when something doesn't feel right. This is how transformation happens. One loving choice at a time. As we move forward, I'll guide you through what to expect when challenges arise and how to stay committed to this new way of being, even when doubts and fears try to pull you back. Now that you've started creating positive changes, it's important to prepare for the moments when old fears and doubts come rushing back. This is something Louise Hay talked about often. Growth is not a straight line. It comes with waves. Moments of clarity followed by moments of uncertainty. You may wake up one day feeling strong and confident, ready to make empowered choices. But the next day, you might find yourself questioning everything. Thoughts like, "Am I being too selfish?" Or, "What if I'm making a mistake?" may creep in. This is normal. It doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. Louise always reminded us to meet these moments with love, not criticism. Instead of judging yourself for feeling doubt, she encouraged people to acknowledge the feeling and choose a better thought. You can pause and say, "It's okay for me to feel unsure. I am learning. I am growing. I trust the process." Let's imagine a situation. You've finally started saying no to tasks that drain you. You're making time for yourself. But then an old friend calls, asking for help in a way that triggers your guilt. You feel that familiar pull to say yes, even though every part of you wants to say no. In moments like this, Louise would suggest stopping for a second and placing your hand over your heart. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is the most loving choice I can make for myself right now? Sometimes love means helping. Other times it means protecting your own energy. These internal battles are part of the healing process. Each time you choose yourself, even in small ways, you're rewiring years of conditioning. You're teaching your mind and body that it's safe to prioritize your well-being. Another thing Louise often recommended was to pay attention to your inner dialogue. When fear shows up, affirmations become your best ally. Try saying to yourself, "I am safe to make choices that serve me," or "It's okay for me to grow and change." These simple sentences can bring calm and clarity when your emotions feel overwhelming. Also, pay attention to how your body reacts. If you notice tension in your shoulders, a tight chest, or shallow breathing, pause and breathe deeply. Your body often holds on to stress from old patterns. By relaxing physically, you help your mind relax too. Remember, healing takes time. You didn't develop these people-pleasing habits overnight, and you won't undo them overnight either. But every step you take matters. Every time you choose a thought that supports you, you're building a stronger foundation. If you stay committed, these challenging moments will become less frequent. You'll start to recognize them as part of the process, not as signs to give up. In the next part of our conversation, I'll help you explore how choosing yourself doesn't just change how you feel internally, but also creates positive shifts in the relationships and environments around you. As you continue walking this path of choosing yourself, something interesting begins to happen. The world around you starts to mirror your inner transformation. Louise Hay often said that life is very simple. What we give out, we get back. When you start treating yourself with love and respect, people begin to respond differently to you. You may notice that some relationships start to feel more supportive. Friends who once took you for granted now approach you with more care. Conversations that used to drain your energy become more balanced. People begin to listen when you speak. They sense the shift in your energy, even if they can't explain it at the same time. Situations that no longer align with your new mindset may naturally start to fall away. This might feel uncomfortable at first. You may notice that certain invitations stop coming. Some people may distance themselves, but Louise always encouraged us to trust that life is clearing space for something better. Let's imagine a simple example. Maybe you had a friend who only called when she needed something. You always answered even when you were tired or busy. But now, after choosing yourself, you pause before responding. You check in with your feelings. One day, you decide not to pick up the phone. Instead, you choose to rest, go for a walk, or spend time doing something that nurtures you. At first, the friend may seem upset. But over time, two things happen. She either learns to respect your boundaries, or the space she leaves behind is filled with someone who truly values your time and energy. Louise taught that when we change our inner world, our outer world responds. This doesn't mean life will suddenly be perfect. But it does mean that new opportunities, healthier connections, and moments of joy will start to appear more often. You might notice improvements at work. Tasks that felt overwhelming become more manageable. Opportunities for growth may present themselves. Even small moments, like a stranger smiling at you or someone offering unexpected help, can feel like signs that you're on the right path. There's also a beautiful internal shift happening. You begin to trust yourself more. Decisions that once felt difficult become clearer. You stop overthinking every choice. Instead, you start listening to your intuition, that inner voice Louise always encouraged us to follow. Another change you might notice is in your health. When stress decreases and self-love increases, your body responds. You may sleep better, experience fewer headaches, feel lighter and more energized throughout the day. The key is consistency. Choosing yourself is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. Each time you listen to your needs, honor your feelings, and set boundaries, you're reinforcing this new reality. In the final part of our journey, I'll help you reflect on how far you've come and how to continue building a life that truly reflects your worth and your inner truth. Now that we've walked this journey together, let's pause and reflect on how far you've come. Choosing yourself is not just a decision, it's a daily practice. It's waking up every morning and gently reminding yourself that your feelings matter, your needs matter, your happiness is important. Louise Hay often reminded us that we are the only thinkers in our own minds. No one else can choose our thoughts for us. And this awareness gives us incredible power. The power to create change. The power to choose thoughts that support and nurture us. Maybe during this process, you've started to notice small changes in how you speak to yourself. Maybe you've caught yourself in the middle of a harsh thought and gently shifted it. Perhaps you've stood in front of the mirror and said, "I love you, really, really love you," just like Louise taught. Even if it felt strange at first, every time you do it, you're planting seeds of healing. Choosing yourself means more than setting boundaries, means building a new relationship with yourself, a relationship based on kindness, trust, and patience. There will still be days when doubt appears. When you feel tempted to fall back into old patterns, that's okay. Growth isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up for yourself, again and again. Let's imagine a simple moment. Picture yourself facing a decision. Maybe it's accepting an invitation, taking on a new project, or even responding to a text message. In the past, you might have answered without thinking, automatically saying yes. But now you pause, you breathe. You ask yourself, does this choice honor me? This small pause is a victory. It's a sign that you're changing from within. Louise taught that our outer world is always a reflection of our inner dialogue. As you continue to speak to yourself with more love, your reality will shift to match this new vibration. You'll attract people who respect your time and energy. Opportunities that align with your true desires will appear more often. Even moments of silence will start to feel peaceful instead of lonely. If there's one thing to remember, it's this. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to know the entire path ahead. All you need is the courage to take the next loving step toward yourself, and then the next one moment at a time. Now, I'd love to hear from you. After listening to everything we've explored today, what does choosing yourself mean to you right now? Has any part of this message touched your heart or inspired a change in how you see your life? If you feel comfortable, share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might help someone else who is standing at the same crossroads you once faced. And if this content has brought you any kind of comfort or clarity, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Join our community of people who, just like you, are learning to create lives filled with love, truth, and self-acceptance. Thank you for being here. Remember, your journey matters. You matter. And this is just the beginning.